I knew the day had shifted the moment the elevator doors slid open and my coffee slipped from my hand. It wasn't dramatic, just a paper cup wobbling, tipping, splashing a thin line across the floor and onto the heel of Marla Kensington's shoe. She looked down slowly, then at me. "Of course," she said. "Of course it would be you." "I'm sorry. It slipped," I answered, bending to pick up the cup. Marla stepped back as if I were radioactive. "Maybe try paying attention for once. Alden." Her voice never needed volume to cut skin. I stood, swallowed the heat in my throat, and followed her out of the elevator. We worked in the same department at Synertech Consulting in downtown Portland, but she carried herself like the building belonged to her. I had been here almost 9 years. She had been here 18 months. By late morning, we were lined up near the lobby, waiting to greet investors flying in from a tech accelerator across the river. The CEO, Grant Caldwell, joined us, greeting everyone with quick nods. I stayed where Marla told me to, 2 steps behind her, holding the project folders she refused to carry. When the elevator opened and the VIP group stepped out, Marla took one exaggerated step forward and tilted her head toward me. "What color is your employee badge?" "Alden," she said loudly enough for the visitors and the CEO to pause. My cheeks went hot. The same color it has always been. "Then stick to your assigned duties. Do not drift into the spotlight." Her smile was tight, practiced, meant to be seen. "We do not want confusion." The investors exchanged uncomfortable glances. Grant's brow tightened. I felt the familiar sting, the kind I had swallowed for years, rise and settle into something colder. I set the folders down carefully. "Thank you," I said. It was all I gave her. At exactly 5 that afternoon. I closed my laptop mid-sentence, letting the half-finished email sit untouched. Marla watched me from her glass office as I packed my bag and walked out of the building without a single word. The air outside felt sharper than usual. I breathed it in and kept walking, not knowing what the next morning would bring or how quickly everything would start to unravel. I arrived at 8:30 in the morning, the exact time printed in my contract. No early logins, no damage control before sunrise. Not today. The moment I opened my inbox, the screen filled with red markers, 35 flagged messages, all urgent, all stamped after the moment I walked out. Marla appeared behind me so quietly I felt her breath before I heard her voice. "You need to start clearing those." "Now." I kept my tone steady. "I will address what falls within my workload." She leaned closer. "Everything falls within your workload. For tasks assigned during business hours," I said. "These came in last night." Her jaw clenched. "Clients do not care about your hours. That is something they should discuss with management." She froze, realizing I had just named the problem without raising my voice. A phone rang at her desk. She snatched it up. "I am handling it," she whispered sharply, pacing between cubicles. A pause. Then, no. She did not respond. "I told you." She just walked out at 5. Another pause, followed by the soft scrape of panic. "Yes, I know she handled your last rollout. I am aware she was your point of contact." Her eyes flicked toward me, accusing, desperate. "I assure you I can manage it." The client's voice was loud enough for me to catch the edge of frustration. "Then why is my timeline incomplete?" Marla turned away quickly, pressing a hand over the receiver. I opened the first flagged email, then the second, then the third. All were tasks she had promised on my behalf. Deadlines moved up without warning, files I had never seen, deliverables that required nights and weekends I no longer offered. I replied to what I could complete during the day. Nothing more. At 9:30, Marla slammed her phone down. Her voice trembled. "You cannot do this to me. I am doing my job the way it was written." I said. The unraveling had begun, and I no longer felt the urge to hold anything together. I had barely settled into my chair when Jonah, one of the junior analysts, drifted close enough to look like he was checking the printer queue. He whispered, "Alden, those investors from the accelerator." They asked about you. I frowned. Asked why Marla snapped at you yesterday. One of them said it was strange management behavior. Their words. He glanced toward Marla's glass office. They noticed everything. Before I could respond, Marla's door opened. Her heels clicked fast, sharp, irritated. "Alden," she called, holding a stack of papers. "I need these deliverables by this afternoon." I took the stack without flinching. These were due next week. They are due today now. That turns a 5-person workload into a single-day sprint. "That is not my problem," she said. "Handle it." Jonah stepped back, eyes wide. Marla shot him a glare until he practically dissolved into the nearest cubicle. I laid the papers flat on my desk. "I will complete what fits within my assigned capacity. The rest will be noted." Marla's face tightened. "You are being insubordinate. I am being clear." She stared at me for a long second, as if trying to find the version of me she could control. When she couldn't, she stormed off. A few minutes later, Tessa from Client Relations slipped into the chair beside mine. "Alden, people are talking. They heard what happened yesterday. They heard the badge comment." I exhaled slowly. I did not ask for any of this. I know. But it is giving people courage. They are realizing she only behaves that way because no one pushes back. Marla's voice suddenly cut across the office. "Alden, status update." I typed one sentence. 3 tasks completed, 4 documented for timeline adjustment. She read it, jaw flexing. I could feel her unraveling thread by thread, and for once, I did not rush to stop the unraveling. By mid-morning, the tension in the office shifted the way air changes before a storm. I noticed Grant Caldwell, our CEO, step onto the floor, hands in his pockets, jaw tight. Grant rarely walked through our department. When he did, it meant something was already wrong. He stopped by Marla's desk first. "Why am I getting direct client escalations?" His voice was calm, but edged. Marla straightened. "There must be a misunderstanding. Everything is under control." Grant held up his phone. "A partner from the accelerator forwarded this. They CC'd Alden." He read aloud. "Why did your manager speak to your staff like this in front of us?" I kept my eyes on my screen, but my pulse jumped. Marla forced a laugh. "They misinterpreted playful guidance." "Playful," Grant repeated, the word sounding foreign in his mouth. "Is that what we are calling it?" Before she could answer. Another notification chimed on his phone. He exhaled sharply. "And now I am receiving timeline questions for tasks you said were completed. The timestamps are..." "Odd." She stepped toward him. "Odd how they show Alden's login history," Grant said. "But you marked them as your deliverables." Marla's smile cracked. "She assists me. It is normal for her account to be involved." Grant turned to me. "Alden, did you complete these?" I nodded once. "Yes, last week. And you submitted them. I sent them to Marla to finalize." Grant looked back at her. "Then why did these files arrive under your signature?" "With metadata from her account." Marla's voice thinned. "I oversee her work. It is more efficient that way." He studied her for a long moment. "Efficiency requires accuracy." Marla's throat bobbed. Grant slipped his phone back into his pocket. "I will be reviewing all project logs this afternoon. Expect follow-up." He walked off without another word, leaving Marla frozen in place, staring at the empty air where her authority used to be. Marla caught me in the stairwell between the 4th and 5th floors, the door slamming behind her hard enough to echo. "Stop acting superior," she hissed. I kept my back straight. "I am doing my job. You are undermining me. I am completing assigned tasks within documented expectations." Her eyes darted. Frantic. "Do not use that tone with me." "This is the same tone I have always used." She stepped closer. "You think Grant is on your side now? You are mistaken. I have not spoken to Grant outside of his questions yesterday. You should have defended me. I told the truth. That is not the same thing." I pulled my phone from my pocket and opened the Notes app. Her face twisted. "Oh, you are documenting me now." "Yes," I said. "For clarity." She let out a short, humorless laugh. "You think you are protecting yourself? You have no idea how this works." Before I could respond, the stairwell door opened again. Tessa leaned in. "Alden, the client from the Historical Society project is on the line. They are threatening to cancel their partnership," Marla snapped. "Give me the call." Tessa shook her head. "They asked for Alden. They said she handled the rollout last quarter and they will not repeat instructions." Marla's lips parted in disbelief. I followed Tessa to the conference room. Marla trailed behind us, silent and shaking. On speaker, the client's voice was clipped. "We were promised a revised schedule. We have received nothing. We need assurance today, or we walk." Marla jumped in. "We are finalizing." "We asked for Alden," the client interrupted. I steadied my breath. "I can prepare a corrected outline by the end of business hours." "Thank you," the client said. That is all we needed. After the call ended, Marla pointed at me, trembling. "You are setting me up. I am following procedures." Grant's voice sounded from the doorway. "Marla, I need you in my office. Now." She went rigid. As they walked away, I felt the pressure in the building shift again, heavy and inevitable. I arrived the next morning expecting more flagged emails, more whispered panic, more of the same unraveling. Instead, when I logged in, one new message sat at the top of my inbox, short, direct, unmistakably from Grant Caldwell. "Conference Room 3. Emergency meeting. Only you and Marla." I read it twice before my pulse caught up. Around me, the office felt too quiet. Then the whispering began. Tessa passed behind my chair. "Is that about yesterday?" she murmured. Jonah hovered near the corner of my desk. "Everyone saw what happened with those investors. Grant saw it too." I stood, trying to ignore the eyes following me. Each step down the hallway stretched longer than the last. I heard someone whisper. She did not even raise her voice, and another whisper. "Marla is losing control." When I reached the conference room, Marla was already there. She clutched a stack of documents so tightly the pages curled at the edges. Her face was drained, almost gray. She looked up sharply. "Do you know what this is about?" "No," I said. "You must have said something to him." "You must have." "I have spoken only when he asked questions. You think your little boundary act makes you look competent, but it makes you look insubordinate." I opened the door fully. "We are both expected inside." She stepped in ahead of me, her breath uneven. Grant sat at the far end of the table, hands folded, expression unreadable. "Have a seat," he said. Marla slid into the chair beside him, shuffling her papers as if rearranging them would change what they contained. I sat opposite them, my palms cold, my spine straight. Grant lifted his eyes to meet mine. "We need to talk about what has been happening here." Grant folded his hands on the table, his voice steady. "Alden, start with the incident in the lobby." I nodded. Marla questioned my badge in front of the investors. She told me to stay in the background and not confuse anyone. Marla cut in immediately. "It was a joke. She is exaggerating." Grant lifted a hand. "You will have your turn," I continued. The clients looked uncomfortable. "One later emailed you about it." Grant tapped his tablet. "Yes, I have their message here." He read it aloud. "Why did your manager speak to your staff like this in front of us?" Marla leaned forward. They misread my tone. "Let us move on," Grant said. "These files you submitted last week." He slid several printed pages across the table. "They include your signature, but the metadata shows they were created from Alden's account." Marla's voice sharpened. "I oversee her work. She drafts. I finalize." "That is not true," I said. "I sent those to you completed. I have timestamps." Marla slammed her palm on the table. "She thinks she is special. She thinks she deserves more than her role." Grant's gaze hardened. "Lower your voice," she pointed at me. "She is manipulating this. She is making me look incompetent." I kept my tone even. I documented all additional assignments over the past months. Many of them came after regular hours. I also documented the deadlines you changed without notifying clients. Grant opened another file. "There are discrepancies in nearly every project submitted under your name," he said to Marla, "and clients repeatedly request Alden as their point of contact." Marla's breathing quickened. "You are taking her side." "I am reviewing evidence," Grant replied. He closed the folder. "We are launching a formal investigation." Marla's face drained of color. Grant stood, signaling the end of the meeting. I remained seated for a moment, gathering the calm I had fought hard to claim. The investigation began before lunch. HR Director Lena Harrington appeared on our floor with a clipboard and a face that left no room for interpretation. She stopped at my desk first. "Alden, I need a moment." Marla rose from her chair across the room. "Why her? Shouldn't you be speaking with me?" Lena didn't look up. "I will." I followed Lena into a small conference room. She closed the door and set her notes down. "We spoke with the Historical Society client," she said. "They confirmed you handled every major deliverable for the past 3 quarters. "I did," I replied. "And the investors from yesterday also sent statements." She continued. "They described your manager's behavior as unprofessional and obstructive," before I could respond. A knock sounded. Grant stepped inside. "Alden, thank you," he said. "We have what we need from you for now." Marla was waiting outside the door when I stepped back into the hall. Her eyes were wild. "What did you tell them?" she demanded. "The truth." Lena gestured to her. "Marla, conference room. Now." Marla stiffened. "I will not sit through a smear campaign." Grant spoke quietly, and the entire floor seemed to freeze. "This is not a smear campaign. This is accountability." Her mouth opened, then closed again. Lena entered first. Grant followed. Marla walked in last, gripping her handbag like it was the only solid thing left in the room. 15 minutes later, the door opened. A security officer stepped inside. Marla stopped speaking mid-sentence. Grant's voice carried out into the hallway. "Marla Kensington, you are suspended effective immediately." She emerged pale and silent, escorted toward the elevators. Employees watched without pretending otherwise. Some looked stunned, others relieved. I stood by my desk, hands trembling, unsure whether I was supposed to breathe easier or brace for whatever came next. Grant called me to his office just after 3 in the afternoon. His assistant, Marin, gave me a steady look as she opened the door, like she already knew something I didn't. Grant stood by the window overlooking the Willamette River. He didn't sit until I did. "I spent the morning reviewing every file connected to your department," he said. "Every timestamp, every email chain." I folded my hands in my lap. I did not intend for any of this to become... He cut me off gently. "Alden, nothing you did caused this. You responded to unreasonable expectations that should never have been placed on you." I stayed quiet. He leaned forward. "Clients praise your clarity. Your documentation is meticulous. Your project ownership is consistent. And every time something delivered well, your name was buried under someone else's signature. That has been the pattern." I admitted. Grant nodded once. "We are restructuring the division. While this is underway, I would like you to step into an acting leadership role." The words landed with more weight than I expected. "I do not know if that is the right choice for me." "It is only temporary," he said. "But you already function as the backbone of this team. I want the title to reflect the reality." My chest tightened not with fear, but with the memory of 9 years spent believing I did not belong anywhere near leadership. "I have one condition," I said quietly. "Clear expectations. No unpaid labor. Transparent credit for work performed. Not just for me. For everyone." Grant didn't hesitate. Agreed. I let out a slow breath. Then I will accept." He stood and extended his hand. "Thank you. Alden, this will mark a different beginning." I shook his hand, feeling something inside me shift into place for the first time in years. 3 weeks later, the investigation wrapped with a finality no one dared question. Grant called me into his office first. "It is done," he said. "The committee reviewed everything. Marla is terminated for cause. Her conduct has been reported to the certification board." I nodded slowly. "Not out of spite." "No," he said. "Out of responsibility." Word traveled through the office before I returned to my desk. Jonah appeared beside me, almost shy. "Congrats," he said. "It feels different around here. It will stay different," I answered. And it did. Assignments became transparent. Hours were respected. Team members were encouraged to step forward instead of shrinking back. I held weekly roundtables where everyone really spoke about workload and needs. When someone delivered excellent work, I made sure their name reached the client, not just the internal tracker. Tessa stopped by one afternoon. "The accelerator wants you again," she said. "They said your revised process is cleaner than anything they have seen." Later that week, a local historical foundation requested me as their permanent liaison. Another client followed, then another. The shift was unmistakable. People trusted clarity more than theatrics, and they could feel the difference. On a quiet Friday evening, I stayed a few minutes past closing not to catch up on work, but because I needed a moment. Grant's office lights were already off. The building was still. I walked to the window overlooking the Willamette River. Downtown lights shimmered across the water, soft and steady. For the first time in years, my body wasn't bracing for the next blow. Maren stepped behind me. "Long week, a meaningful one," I said. I thought of the spilled coffee, the public insult, the 35 flagged emails. None of it had broken me. It had clarified my path, stripped away the noise, and left the truth standing. I turned off the light and walked out, ready for the future that finally felt like mine to build.